From 1865 to 1867, Chinese railroad workers in the Sierra Nevada faced challenges such as tough granite rock, scary winter storms, and terrible working conditions during the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. Summit Tunnel 6 proved to be a formidable foe as workers used only star drills and hammers to carve through 1,659 feet of solid rock. But manual instruments were not the only tools of the trade when working on the Summit Tunnel. Workers also utilized the power of explosions. My name is Alondra, and I am a STEM educator here at the California State Railroad Museum, located in Old Sacramento State Historic Park. If you haven't seen our PORTScast series on the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad and the Chinese railroad worker experience, please check out the link below. Join me as we discover the critical chemical compounds that turn that rugged rock at Donner Pass into rubble: black powder and nitroglycerin. Before we take a look at the history behind black powder and nitroglycerin, let's take a look at how changes in energy can create explosions from these compounds.
Energy is everywhere and in every object, whether that object is moving or not. Mathematician and physicist Sir Isaac Newton's third law of energy states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be passed around. This transfer of energy can be as simple as picking up a ball, as gentle as wind blowing a windmill, or as exciting as an explosion. Think about the explosions you've seen or heard, like popcorn popping, car engines starting, or rocket ships lifting off. They all begin and end with energy. Newton's third law also suggests that energy transferred can change forms. Energy can be released in different ways, like heat, light, motion, sound, and more. But there is a hidden form of energy that rests in everything: potential energy. Potential energy is the energy stored in something that can be released later in another form. Imagine you have a toy locomotive that uses a battery. When the toy is off, the battery has potential energy stored in it, and the toy does not move. When you turn the toy on, the battery's potential energy changes into motion energy, making the toy move. What other forms of energy do you see on screen?
Black powder works in a similar way. When black powder receives heat energy, it changes its own potential energy into heat, light, and motion energy. In fact, so much motion energy is produced that it creates a shock wave that can blast through even the hardest rock. Engineers at the Central Pacific Railroad Company decided to use black powder to carve through the tough rock in the Sierra Nevada. However, work on the Summit tunnels was halted by legendary winter storms in 1865, 1866, and 1867, with snow piling up as high as 35 feet. That's taller than a telephone pole.
The engineers saw that the bad weather was causing delays. After seeing a powerful demonstration of a new liquid explosive on April 12, 1866, the leaders of the Central Pacific knew they needed to use this new product, known at the time as blasting oil, to speed up their work. What do you think this new liquid was? It was nitroglycerin, of course.
Nitroglycerin is a colorless liquid that is much stronger than black powder. When heated, 1 pound of black powder can explode and send out a shock wave of energy that moves over 5,000 miles per hour. On the other hand, 1 pound of nitroglycerin can explode and send a shock wave of energy moving over 8,000 miles per hour. What a difference! Imagine how much more rock you could crumble with all that energy. In the Sierra Nevada, nitroglycerin was cheaper to make and created less toxic smoke than black powder did. This was really helpful when working in long tunnels with only a few ways for fresh air to come in. let's do some math to compare the motion energy of black powder versus nitroglycerin.
A pound of black powder contains 136 units of potential energy, while a pound of nitroglycerin contains 286 units of potential energy. How many more units of potential energy does nitroglycerin have compared to black powder? What is the total potential energy if you combine the potential energy of black powder and nitroglycerin? Pause this video now and write out your answer before continuing. Are you ready? Here's our solution. To find out how many more units of potential energy nitroglycerin has compared to black powder, subtract the potential energy of black powder from the potential energy of nitroglycerin. 286 units of nitroglycerin minus 136 units of black powder equals 150 units of potential energy. So, nitroglycerin has 150 more units of potential energy than black powder. To find the total potential energy when combining black powder and nitroglycerin, add their potential energies together. 136 units of black powder plus 286 units of nitroglycerin equals 422. So the total potential energy when combining them is 422 units of potential energy. If you were a Central Pacific engineer, would you rather pick black powder or nitroglycerin to use in your construction project? Their solution was to use both.
The liquid explosive was poured into metal tubes capped with wooden plugs and black powder. A very long string with a black powder core, known as a fuse, would stick out like a tail from the top of the tube. Chinese railroad workers worked in groups to create boreholes on the surface of the tunnel wall. One person struck a star drill you see right here with a hammer, and another person turned the drill slightly between each strike until a 2-foot-long borehole was created. The nitroglycerin tube was then placed inside the hole, and from a further distance, the fuse was lit. After that, workers would run as far away as they could before the nitroglycerin could ignite, and then boom! Carving distance increased from 14 inches a day with black powder alone to over 25 inches a day with black powder and nitroglycerin. But nitroglycerin was much more sensitive. Instead of needing only heat energy to ignite, nitroglycerin could also explode upon very little motion energy, which, in many times in history, proved to be destructive. On Monday, April 16, 1866, in San Francisco, a leaking crate filled with 300 pounds of nitroglycerin exploded inside a Wells Fargo & Co. building after a freight clerk pried it open with a crowbar. Windows within several blocks were shattered. Buildings were destroyed up to 50 feet away. That's nearly the length of a bowling alley lane. Imagine how dangerous it was to move crates of nitroglycerin across land and sea. How would you feel if you were the captain of a ship transporting this dangerous new material? 3 weeks after the tragedy, Wells Fargo & Co. declared it would never transport the compound again.
Despite harrowing incidents like this, nitroglycerin was still introduced to the Donner Summit Tunnel on February 9, 1867. Due to its history of dangerous and risky transportation, the liquid explosive was made on location on Donner Pass by British chemist James Howden. Confident and ready for work, he was sure he could speed up the carving process after months of experiments and trials perfecting his nitroglycerin batches. At maximum speed, Howden was able to produce 100 pounds of nitroglycerin a day. Remember, it took 300 pounds to destroy several city blocks the year before, so the work had to be done carefully. Can you imagine being one of the workers testing nitroglycerin for the first time at Summit Tunnel number 6? Would you feel scared of its powerful and dangerous explosions? Or would you feel excited because it could help you finish the work faster? The workers kept using nitroglycerin until they broke through to the other side of the tunnel on September 26, 1867. After that, the Central Pacific Railroad Company discontinued use of the compound. In modern times, the kind of black powder used on Summit Tunnel No. 6 is still used in some fireworks and for historical reenactments. Nitroglycerin had been replaced as a construction explosive by the much more powerful dynamite and TNT developed after the Summit Tunnel was completed. Surprisingly, nitroglycerin is now used as a heart medication to help control blood pressure. Even today, you can see some of the old blast marks and holes left by black powder and nitroglycerin on the tunnel walls. The hard work and bravery of those workers are still visible in this amazing tunnel.
What an explosive adventure into the past we've had. We have seen how the hard work of many people and the amazing science behind different types of energy helped build the railroad through tough conditions. Remember, black powder and nitroglycerin played big roles, each with their own strengths and dangers. By understanding their effects, we can appreciate how people made important decisions to build the transcontinental railroad quickly and efficiently, as well as the Chinese railroad workers who sacrificed so much to carve great structures like Summit Tunnel 6. Railroad history shows us how learning, experimenting, and adapting can lead to great achievements in the past, visible still today in the Sierra Nevada. Check out the description box below for more resources on what we learned today. You can join us aboard our PORTScast series on the Chinese railroad worker experience, working on the Transcontinental Railroad. For more information about the museum, exhibits, and other educational programs, you can visit our website at www.californiarailroad.museum. Our lives are made of railroad stories. Keep discovering your railroad story with the CSRM.